but I think the pressure is on now even more so. Do you guys think if Franklin can't turn this around and develop Alar quickly, will Penn State finally move on? And I may be just a conspiracy theorist, but the new Penn State athletic director was the athletic director for Temple when Matt Rule was hired. Rule is a Penn Stater from State College. Just saying, ... Thanks, like button smashed from Ryan in Maryland.
So we know what Penn State message boards are going to be saying for the next few years.
That why would you want to hire Matt Rule?
I don't know. I feel like Matt Rule's star. I mean, I think that we've seen it too many times. College coaches are successful. College go to the NFL, fail, and in a lot of people's eyes, it kind of ruins them as far as their stock. And then they come back to college. It's like, oh no, wait, they're still pretty good at this. So I don't think Matt Rule's stock is down, but I completely understand why nationally some people will be like, really? Have you seen what he's done with the Panthers? But as far as James Franklin, I think that James Franklin is already kind of on the hot seat with a decent portion of the Penn State fan base. And I think that when that happens, you can't rule anything out. But, and this is a pretty large but, the man did just sign a 10-year contract extension.
And $70 million guaranteed.
And if you look at the buyouts on that contract, if you fired him now, it's $72 million. If you fire him in 2023, it's 64. 2024, it drops to 56. 2025, it drops to 48. 2026, 40. So even if it's 5 years from now, to buy him out of that contract is going to cost you $40 million. Now, God knows what college coaches are going to be getting paid 5 years from now, considering the way things are going. But we could also see the market shift direction where that more of that money goes to players than it does to coaches. Who knows? I just think that is a large pill to swallow, but maybe when the Big Ten signs its new TV deal, it becomes more feasible for Penn State to swallow that kind of money and move on if things get that bad. But man, I feel like for Penn State to want to pay that much to make James Franklin go away, things will have to get really bad. And I don't see things going really bad. Like I kind of mentioned a few minutes ago, I think that Penn State is a team that's going to be good this year. It's going to get back to normal. I know they've had a couple down seasons, but there are numbers that suggest there's some bad luck involved there. And I think we're going to see a course correction this year. I think Sean Clifford being in his second season with the same offensive coordinator for the first time in his career will be big for him. It will be good for the offense. And if it's not, I think if Drew Alar is able to step in and, lives up to the hype, that will be good for the offense. But I just think this is still going to be a team that's going to win 9 games, probably in all likelihood, compete in the East, go to a major bowl game. And no, that's not the playoff, but that might be the playoff in a few years. So will you want to be paying James Franklin $56 million to go away when he's getting at-large berths to the college football playoff? I doubt it.
Well, the high floor is what I would take.
Yes.
Like as a Penn State, if I'm putting myself in the shoes of a Penn State fan, I know it's very difficult for me, uninvested Chip, to be able to tell you, heavily invested fan, how to feel about things, but the consistency that you're able to get, and as you mentioned, like there have been some frustrations. I mean,
they've been a mediocre football team the last 2 years, results-wise.
2 years, the results have not been good, and to watch every one of those overtimes probably took a lot of.
Well, they just lost to a better team that day.
It added a lot of joy for the two of us, but for a Penn State fan, I understand what that might have done to your psyche and your overall emotional state regarding the Nittany Lions. But I am so much more in on the idea of, like James Franklin, he just keeps going 9-3. He keeps going 9-3. And to your point, if a college football playoff expansion is coming, Penn State going 9-3 against a schedule that includes Ohio State every year, Michigan likely every year. I don't know what their protected rivalries would be if they move away from divisions, but I got to imagine that Ohio State and Michigan remain very much at the core of Penn State scheduling principles.
Well, Richard Aitchison asks in the comments, he says, will getting rid of divisions help any program more than Penn State? I do think they would be helped by that, because I don't know who their premier or their regular rotating rivals would be, but I do think that the two newest programs in the Big Ten would be viable candidates, because there is a quote-unquote rivalry between Maryland and Penn State, and it could be Penn State and Rutgers. So you might see two of Penn State's protected rivalries every year being Rutgers and Maryland, which means at worst,
green light, let's go.
Yeah. And then you've got the land grant trophy with Michigan State. So I wouldn't be shocked if Penn State's protected games are Michigan State, Rutgers, and Maryland, which means you're not playing Ohio State and Michigan every single year anymore, which would be a tremendous boost to their floor, and it would increase their ceiling a little bit too, because it would just increase their odds of finishing in the top two and then facing Ohio State or Michigan in the Big Ten championship. But at this point, we've probably got the expanded playoff. And again, they're going to be a viable candidate for one of those at-large berths every single year. And if you're getting to the playoff, I don't think you're going to be having reasons to fire James Franklin.
No, top two, definitely top three, possibly team in the Big Ten is always going to be a contender for a 12-team playoff.
Mm-hmm.
And Penn State absolutely can be that. Imagining those buyout numbers as you just read them out was hilarious, because I was remembering even this past offseason, a Power 5 program sweating a $14 million buyout.
Mm-hmm.
If a $14 million buyout is giving you pause on what you're going to do and making you really like have to reach out to boosters and make some tough decisions, imagine what 56.
Yeah.
Like that's ridiculous.
Like the only way he's getting fired in those seasons is if he's done something that it allows Penn State to wiggle out of the buyout because they've got, cause or whatever, that kind of stuff.